さい。3, 2, 1, go!
This is Dodonpachi Resurrection, a vertical scrolling bullet hell style shmup by Cave. And while this is my first venture into this sort of genre, I gotta say, while I might be awful at it, it was a hell of a blast, and I definitely want to try and grab as many more of these as I possibly can. Now, the story actually exists in this game, kind of surprising for a shmup, but it's fed entirely after you beat the game. Essentially, these giant robot anime whinging schoolgirls are sent from the future to destroy the past, or something. I don't know, but it is a shmup. If you're playing these games for story, you're always going to be disappointed because there really aren't too many shmups with a decent story, let's just be completely honest here. The main focus is blowing stuff up, and stuff blows up good in this game. Now, in terms of gameplay, I'm going to try and talk about as many of these subtle nuances as I possibly can, but fair warning, I've been playing this game for about 6 months now, and I'm probably still not even going to cover half of them because I still haven't figured them out myself. So to begin with, you have 3 different ships. A red one, a green one, and a blue one. The red one is the fastest of them all, but has a lower damage output than the other 3. The green one is sort of the in-betweeny one, and the blue one is the slowest, but has the highest potential for damage. Now, after you've selected your ship, you are given 3 different style options. The first style, Power Style, will allow you to modify the positions of your options. This will also increase your damage output and overall number of shots per second. However, the mode you swap your options to can actually slow you down, as well as decrease the overall amount of hyper mode you can gain. So it's important to know when to switch and when not to. The second style is Bomb Style. Self-explanatory, this means you can use bombs, unlike the Power Style, which couldn't. However, with the exception of the bombs, the overall attack output of the Bomb Style is actually reduced from the other styles. In addition, it has the most ineffective laser of all 3 styles. The third style, known as Strong Style, was an unlockable in the arcade version of this game, and there's a reason for it. Essentially, it tries to combine the powers of both Power and Bomb Style. Essentially, you have a very powerful shot as well as the ability to use bombs, although it is somewhat limited. You don't have the ability, however, to modify your option placement. And you do seem at least a little bit slower than flying in Power Style. Still, it's a good in-betweeny style, especially if you're starting out. Now, once you've actually entered the game proper, you need to familiarize yourself with your attacks. You've got bombs, of course, assuming your style has bombs, of course. You also have the ability to shoot regular shots. I believe on the default mode you actually have to mash the button as much as possible. However, you can actually set a rapid fire button, which is a godsend. In addition, if you hold the shot button down, you will fire a laser. This laser is a much more concentrated blast, however, there's a bit of risk-reward with using it. You'll have a higher damage output, which makes it excellent for fighting bosses. However, it of course covers less ground, which means you're going to be able to destroy less amounts of larger numbers of enemies. This also means that you're offensively not covering as much area around you, which leaves you far more vulnerable. Unless, of course, you use bombs. You know, provided you can. Speaking of bombs, there's a neat little sub-ability with bombs that I felt was quite useful, especially when starting out. If you happen to have bombs in your inventory and you get hit, you will actually expend a bomb to not only give you a shield, but also damage certain enemies around your machine. That's a very useful safety net, especially for beginners. But I will say that the game does punish you sort of behind the scenes about it, which kind of sucks, but I also kind of get it. Now, the next main attack ability you need to know about is your hyper mode. Now, you gain this by getting a large chain of explosions, destroying environment, destroying enemies, just blowing stuff up. As well, depending on your style, and I believe the highest amount of combo damage you have will actually gain the hyper meter faster. When you activate hyper mode, your shots will automatically cancel out any enemy shots. That's kind of awesome. But what's better is the enemy shots then get turned into point power-ups for you, thus giving you a larger chain and theoretically allowing you to stay in hyper mode even longer. And that's incredible. You also have the ability to completely destroy lasers. Now if you chose a strong enough style, read anyone except the bomb style at the beginning, your lasers can actually be used to shield yourself from enemy lasers. You know, like repelling, like you'd see in any sort of mech anime ever. Which is definitely useful, but when you have it in hyper mode, you can basically just obliterate the beams, and the entire beams get just transformed into thousands of point pickups. It's just really satisfying when you do it. Now your ability to use both your shots and laser, as well as hyper mode at specific times, are all put to the test, especially later on, when the levels are literally designed as almost a sort of puzzle, where you might have to use your laser to disable another laser, all while firing off your regular shots to destroy something. It requires you to assess the situation at the drop of a hat and know when to switch and switch back, and sometimes it has to be done instantaneously. Now the last major gameplay nuance I want to talk about is alternative paths. Now I had a lot of trouble activating these, even though I actually know exactly what you need to do. But if you manage to destroy a number of specific targets, as well as have a high enough hypermeter, as well as not get destroyed or waste bombs or anything, basically you have to kick ass at this game. If you manage to do it, the world will phase shift into a sort of alternate reality where you fight a completely different boss and take a completely different path. And this is actually required if you want to see the full ending of the game, as well as achieve maximum score, attain leaderboard status, etc, etc. But because of how mysterious these alternate paths are, it definitely increased the replay value. Because suddenly I found myself on a completely different route fighting a boss I'd never fought before. It was a neat experience, to say the least. Now the presentation overall, both audibly and visibly, is tremendous. Everything looks nice, the soundtrack is quite good, but you will be paying attention to absolutely none of it, because you will be too busy dodging bullets. This is bullet hell after all, and there's quite a lot of bullets in this hell. However, the bullet patterns themselves are quite beautiful. That's one thing I noticed while trying to flee for my life, was just how pretty the shots ended up being. In addition, these bullet patterns completely turn the gameplay on its head, at least compared to a standard non-bullet hell shmup, of course. Because especially when gameplay gets intense, there's going to be tons and tons of bullets on the field. You're going to be panicking about where to go, what you're supposed to do, and first thing you're going to feel is that it's just straight out impossible. And even when you get good at it, it does seem to be like that. Don't take that from me, I'm nowhere near good at this, but this still feels impossible despite knowing what to do. But this game ends up kind of becoming a sort of puzzle game, focusing heavily on execution, trying to figure out the small gaps in between the bullets in which you can pilot. And while it completely threw me off, because I'm used to games like Fantasy Zone where your entire ship is your hitbox, you only have to worry about a tiny little pixel dead center in your ship. So long as that doesn't get hit, you can fly through anything, which confused the hell out of me, but once you get used to it, while everything might seem impossible, you eventually start picking up on it, and you fly through things just sort of subconsciously. And it just feels really amazing that you're not even really consciously moving through this, and yet you're solving all these puzzles of just complex movement patterns. It's definitely a really cool experience to experience for yourself, but it is really hard to describe for anyone else. But that said, the bullet patterns themselves make this game kind of similar to a katana. It's very simple, but like a katana, when everything's in motion, it becomes a piece of art. Also, I'm betting you never thought you'd ever hear a shmup getting compared to a sword. That's why you come to me, people. But yeah, this game is absolutely gorgeous, especially in motion, because despite how good this game does look, the real beauty comes out in the gameplay. And I might be generalizing because this is the only one I've played, but I think this sort of thing is what makes bullet hell games so cool. It's just how beautiful the gameplay itself becomes, and how it sort of transforms the gameplay into the aesthetic itself. Offhand, I can't think of too many other games that do that. Now this is a shmup, so most of the replay value is going to be mastering it, try to get through the game on a single credit. Good luck on that one, by the way. I can't even get past level 2 without game overing. But there are 3 different ships, 3 different styles, 4 different gameplay modes, including a novice mode, which reduces the number of bullets, at least initially, making it very approachable for newbies. But note that at no point did I ever use the word easy, because this game is not easy no matter what mode you play it on. It is damn hard, and I think it's damn proud of it. But because it has that novice mode, I would say it's a great game for people who want to get into the genre, and with all the heavy amounts of options, alternate gameplay routes, alternate scoring options, and different strategies one can employ to not only evade bullets, but as well as absorb them and turn them into your own power, I think this game has damn near infinite replayability. And the fact that you can record your own replay footage means that you can effectively view your old playthroughs and figure out what you did wrong and figure out how you can improve. That's definitely great, although I will say watching stuff on playback like I'm doing right now while I'm recording this, I'm just shouting at myself at all the different routes I could have taken because it looks so easy, but damn, doing it in motion, not gonna happen. Now, if you want this game, and if I've done my job right, at this point you should want this game, I've got a little bit of bad news for you. Unfortunately, Dodonpachi Resurrection is an import-only title. It's also a shmup, which means it tends to hold its value quite well. However, unlike a lot of other shmups, it hasn't inflated in price too badly. Last I checked, it can range anywhere from as low as $20, like I paid for, although I think that was a lucky find, to as high as about $100. But before you rush off to eBay to go pick up a copy, I do have one warning, and you should definitely heed it. As I understand, all Japanese versions are region locked. If you want a copy, you're gonna have to get a PAL version, like I'm playing, which would also make this the first PAL review I'm ever doing. Yay for cultural diversity and stuff. So yeah, if you want this, grab the PAL Deluxe Edition. You get a free soundtrack as well, which is pretty good. Soundtrack's good. Although that said, if your copy's anything like mine, all the instructions and stuff are gonna be in German, making me regret the fact that I don't remember any of the German my grandpa taught me. But despite the fact that this game is import only, I absolutely recommend it for anyone who's interested in shmups, anyone who's interested in getting into shmups, because that novice mode is definitely a godsend, although it is still brutally hard. Anyone that likes arcade games, and really anyone that has a 360. It is a bit pricey compared to a lot of other games you can get just lying around at any GameStop, but this game is totally worth it. And this game definitely makes me want to go and grab the other cave bullet hell shmups on the system. Unfortunately, they're also all import only and, as I understand, very expensive, so I'm not likely to ever play it. Huh. Well, that's a crap note to end on.